What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Burndown YouTube channel. We're out here once again on the Pacer rear end saga, and I figured there's got to be one or two of you out there that may have a vehicle where you're like, I'd like to put an 8.8 or I'd like to put whatever 12 bolt 9-inch, sky's the limit, right? But you want to upgrade the rear end in your car, and maybe this isn't something you've done. So I figured I'd explain it a little bit, because I just want to fast forward and get this done, but I figured this video would help at least somebody out for me to explain it. So what we have here is we have the rear end out of the Pacer in all its glory. I believe this is a Dana 35. It is a twig, a couple sticks, and some gears. And this lovely apparatus here is a Ford 8.8 of the limited slip 327 geared variety, and that's 8.8, so that's how you know which one it is. It's not the 7.5. So you'll notice as well it has the ears up top for a 4-link, but said car does not have a 4-link. So what we are going to do is steal the pads off of this one and transfer them onto this one. Easier said than done, right? So the main thing you have to do is you have to get all of your measurements, get all your ducks in a row before you just start cutting all willy-nilly and you screw yourself. So let me go over some of the measurements that I took and show you. I guess we can kind of go over some numbers. I might lose a few of you guys, but we'll try to keep it super simple on how I came to where I think this thing needs to land. So on to a little bit of measuring and some numbers, and I'll share with you guys what I've come up with, and then I'll spend the rest of the afternoon carefully surgically removing those so we don't destroy them, so we can reuse them and stick them on here. So the first step in measuring a rear end is going to be coffee or a snack, because if you're like me, you get hangry or your brain quits working if you're not fueled properly. So now that I'm through my cup of coffee, I'll just go over some of the basic stuff and show you what I measured to kind of get the job done for the most part, and we'll go from there. Your application is going to vary, but I'll just kind of walk you through what I did in a nutshell, and if you have questions, please ask, or if you have a better way to do it because you are smarter than me, which a lot of you guys on here are, leave some comments for the next guy so he doesn't get screwed up by listening to me. All right, coffee in, it's go time. So the main thing between these two rear ends is obviously they're different manufacturers, but the width is actually different. So this is 61.5, I believe it was, and this is like 62 3/8, give or take, and that is from mounting surface to mounting surface, right? So the trick here is we need to get these spring pads in the right location width-wise, and then also pitch-wise, technically, right? Because that's going to be your pinion angle. So the first thing I did on this was I took this guy, I have 2 angle finders here, and I jacked it up with these guys on here until this one read 0, and then I measured the angle on here, and what that tells me is they weld these on at a certain degree, so when you put it in the car you have pinion angle. This particular rear end, when I zeroed this out, that happened to be 5 degrees, so we know that this will need 5 degrees of pinion angle when I weld these on. So we will tackle that when we get the thing welded on, but now that I know that's 5 degrees, the next thing we need to figure out is the width. So the width of the spring perches from this edge to this edge was 50 inches, right? And I measured, you can measure the leaves hanging in the car, same thing, you pull a tape on, it's 50 inches. So we need to cut these off, weld them on here at a 50-inch spread with a 5-degree pinion angle. So that is pretty much that. And then the way that I went about finding the new location, they don't really transfer over because, like I said, these are different widths than that. So I worked off of the mounting surface here. I use that as a constant, and then the mounting flange backside here, I use that with straight edges and a bunch of measuring. We came to the conclusion that this is the mounting point. It was like, what is it? It is, let me tell you, I'll tell you so I sound like I kind of know what I'm talking about. It is 6 3/16 of an inch from the faceplate here to the outside edge of our mounting pad, right? And if I do that on both sides here and here, I could pull a tape from this one over to this one, and that would give me my 50-inch offset, and then that allows for it to be centered in the vehicle. So this will actually stick out a little bit on either side, boop boop, because the overall width of the rear end is wider. Whew, I know it sounds like a bunch, and that was kind of my simple explanation for it, but that's basically it. You need to get a rear end that's the same width or in the ballpark, give or take, you know, wider or more narrow, but keep into account the leaf spring measurement. You know, you can't just cram a rear end that's real narrow, because I already went this week and we screwed this up. I got one and it was too narrow. So by the time I put the spring perches in, they were at the backing plate on the disc, on the brake of the other rear end I had, right? So that's great, but then you don't have any surface area for your tire to come around. So all your offset would be to the outside. You wouldn't find rims and you would hate life. So measure the one that you're gonna cut up a bunch before you get out the saws and go all willy-nilly. So good luck with that. Ask questions in the comments section. Have a snack or a sandwich before you try to tackle this, and you'll be all right. Just take your time. We went a little Dr. Kevorkian with the surgery over here on this, because I started with the cutoff wheel and I couldn't really get to this side, and you would have to take all this stuff off, which wouldn't be a big deal, but this has the big capture nut on here to get all this off. So I just said, screw it, let's just go crazy. So if I would have taken this off, like I said, I could have ground those at an angle with the cutoff wheel, but I digress. We got it off, and here was the pad, and then I was just checking to see if it was level this way, because we had to give it a little gusto, right, to make it fit the circumference of this tube, because this tube's a little wider than that tube. So we'll massage these a bit more, but you can see the fit. Yeah, man, I don't know, some dirty welding going on or whatever from good old American Motors, but we'll try to do it as best we can so my axle stays under the car, and we got both of these done. So we'll massage them a little bit more, and then I'm going to clean these axle tubes off. We'll get a good measurement, and then we'll show you how I'm going to set the degree on the pinion angle and the pads before we stick them down. And the other thing too is to make sure that they're square, right, because you take the angle out of them. So this one looks like needs a little more massaging. Oh, that one's pretty happy. Last order of business is to tack stuff on. I think I might even go as far as test fitting it, so I don't want to get too froggy. And to spice things up, if you noticed, this is actually upside down. So yeah, that's how I roll. The reason we did it upside down, because it'd be easier to get the measurement. So let me show you. On this one, we've got 5 degrees down. So if you flip it over, it should be 5 degrees up, right? So if you look at pinion angle, you want your rear end, at least from what they're saying, and this isn't drag racing, this is just driving this thing around, transmission pointing down 3, rear end pointing up 3. I'm going 5. I think we'll do 4, because that's what this was. So I don't want to change it too much. So I figure technically between 3 to 5, I think you're in the ballpark. 3 is like usually what I shoot for, 2 to 3. So maybe we'll do that. We'll do, watch if we jack it up. So we're at 4. Come on, don't make me a liar. I'll reset the old angle of the dangle. So we're about there, right? We can probably do a little bit more. And then what we'll do is we'll come over here. Once that's set, we will zero these guys out. Right? So that's zeroed out. And then we've got our measurement that we talked about earlier. So that should be, in theory, where that's going to live. So let me mess with it. We'll get it tacked up, and then we'll flip it around and make sure the pinion angle and everything's going the right direction. We will call this video a wrap. I've got a U-bolt, so I can't test fit today. Plus the sun's going down, and you know how life is. Let me get it all done. We'll take a look together, and we'll see what the fruits of our labor look like. I didn't want to bore you with finding this level, but we were about 3.5 degrees, right? So I kind of split hairs with it. It was at 5, I wanted to go 3, so we're like 3.5, 4, right? So now we take our handy dandy little guy and we should be able to stick that on the pad and it should read 0, right? Boom, bada boom, bada bing. No whammy, no whammy, stop. So I'm calling that one a win. Let's try it over here. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Stop. It's hard to see, but I'm calling that 0, right? Right, so that should be victory. So we've got our pinion angle built into our pads, which should bolt down to the existing. Now all we need is some U-bolts, and hopefully the existing pads will kind of work with the U-bolts. That's the other thing too. So we might have to open the holes on those. I won't get into it now. We're gonna make it fit one way or another. So we're this close to having an 8.8 in the Pacer. I'm super excited. Thank you guys for following along. Hope you learned a little bit of something, and hopefully we can put that thing back on some wheels here soon and move on to a driveline. Till next time, I'm out.
You too, boy, if you're with me, the police are gonna have to come and get me off your ass. That's how I'm going out. For the pump mother, it's going out. When I'm in your neighborhood, you better duck, 'cause I skew this crazy ass. As I leave, believe I'm something. I'm coming straight at a call.